Your Worship, then the cartridge casing in the presence of the witness was then placed in a temper sealed bag as an exhibit. Photographs were taken. And the reconstruction of where the cartridge casing was picked up was pointed out. And the scene was reconstructed by Sergeant Kunzi of the local criminal record center relating to where the cartridge casing was found. Your Worship, we then proceed. The mentioned cartridge casing in this tempered seal bag was then handed over to me, which I put then in the SCP-13, sealed at Mdansani.
Do you have the SCP-13 number?
Your Worship, my recollection, if 100%, it's SCP-13 number 688, subject to correction, 2018. Your Worship, during the same day, I was informed that the viral footage was forwarded to Colonel Mzuku, he was captain at the time. By
Just a minute.
Captain Mali Govender from the Provincial Communication Office of the Eastern Cape.
Just a minute. During the same day you were informed that the
viral footage was forwarded to Colonel Mzuku, who was our communication officer at Dansani.
Okay, just a minute there, please. Sorry, Colonel. I think we are all in darkness here because the light is not switched on. That side of the lights, I think I have to do it here. That's been worrying me. Sorry for that. Let me just... Is it not working? That side now as well. Let me just try these ones and see. Apologies for that. I think it helps a little bit to see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know whether the witness wish to remain standing or want to
No,
be seated.
it's okay.
You want to...
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. You may continue.
Your Worship, then a request was made to Colonel Zuku to forward the viral footage, which was on our official handsets, meaning our cell phones, to my official handset. For the purpose of being extracted. And assist during the investigation process. Indeed, Your Worship, the footage was forwarded by Colonel Zuko, and then the following day a request was made to the DPSI, its London office, to assist in extracting the data, meaning the footage, the viral footage. And assist with still photos, compiling a photo album from that viral clipping. Your Worship, my official handset was then handed in to Sergeant Dwayne Francis and Captain Botha from the DPSI office, Eastern Cape Digital Lab. A request was then made as indicated that they must extract the viral footage, which depict accused one firing shots and accused number two receiving a firearm from accused number one, appeared to be fire. Your Worship, I received a CD and still photos, meaning a photo album, afterwards. From Captain Botha. In a sealed bag, which contained a photo album, simultaneously, Your Worship, as part of the investigation, I also requested now retired Warrant Officer Steenkamp with sample images of accused 1, Mr. Malema, and accused number 2, Mr. Snyman, and requested Warrant Officer Steenka if she could compile a facial comparison to identify accused 1 and accused 2 from the photo album and CD that was recorded. The report was then submitted to me by Warrant Officer Steenkamp, that both accused number 1, Mr. Malema, and accused number 2, she could identify through her methodologies by means of facial comparisons. Your Worship, just add on, the CD that I received from Captain Botha was also handed in as an exhibit at our police station in Dansan and booked into the SCP-13 exhibit store. Your Worship, the investigation continued. Information was then received that Mr. Snyman was contracted for his company, for which he belongs to his company, Tactical Security, in Durban, provide personal protection to Mr. Malema. Your Worship, on that basis, I've applied for a search warrant in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act. At Durban Chief Magistrates Office, which was granted. On the 10th of August 2018. The reason for that, Your Worship, was as a result of the cartridge casing that was found. And And the purpose of the search warrant is to establish or to find if Mr. Snyman have or rifles that in his possession that can fire that cartridge casing, caliber of cartridge casing. Your Worship, the cartridge casing, I'm not a ballistic expert, but the cartridge casing which was written on was a .223 caliber. On the 11th of August 2018, the search warrant was then executed. Your Worship, I can also add on that Brigadier Governor, now General Governor, was assisting me. He's from the DPSI. At that time, he was in the Eastern Cape. At the tactical security premises at KZN Bluff, it's Bluff KZN, we arrived at the premises during the morning. And Mr. Snyman joined us. The gates were closed and Mr. Snyman joined us shortly thereafter when we arrived. During the consultations, we informed him that we've got an authorized search warrant, which was granted by the Chief Magistrates Office in Durban. We provided him with a copy. He then alluded that he first have to consult with his defense counsel, Advocate Khaled. That's correct, Your Worship. She was conversing or consulting with Brigadier Governor. The advocate then, Advocate Khaled then informed Mr. Snyman that I think a photo pic also was forwarded to Advocate Khaled to indicate the authenticity of the search warrant. And Mr. Snyman thereafter cooperated fully, Your Worship, and assisted throughout the process. Your Worship, there was an incident, but again, Advocate Khalid diffused the situation where Mr. Snyman said he was going to call Mr. Malema, but we were all scared that time, but she managed to diffuse the situation and we proceeded, he cooperated. Your Worship, during this process, 22 firearms, rifles, was identified by Mr. Snyman. He assisted, thank you, in providing us that rifles that could fire .22 caliber cartridge case. Or bullets, Your Worship. The 12 rifles was then sealed in the presence of Mr. Snyman.
You said 22 rifles, if I noted correctly, now you said 12 rifles.
So there was 12 rifles.
12.
Yeah.
The rifles was then sealed in his presence. It was placed in tamper-free sealed bags, evidence bags. Photographed. Mr. Snyman acknowledged a receipt of the search warrant and also the handing over of the 12 rifles, Your Worship. Your Worship, also I want to add on that the responsible person on the search warrant was mentioned as Mr. Mdluli. On our arrival at the premises, and the arrival of Mr. Snyman, we indicated that Mr. Mdluli was hospitalized and that he is a co-owner, a senior director, and he was the key holder at the time. Your Worship, the 12 firearms was then transported to Brighton Beach Police Station. In KZN. where it was booked in as exhibits. And booked out again for transportation to the Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory Ballistic Section. Your Worship, I was personally involved with the transportation of the 12 rifles to the Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory. Also to add on, Your Worship, at the time of this execution of the search warrant, Mr. Sneeman assisted fully and cooperating and indicated that all the rifles, due to the business that they having, was not on the premises. So at the time, he could only provide us with the 12 rifles. And with the assistance of Advocate Khalid's again, Worship, we managed to have a compromise where we indicated that the 12 firearms after the analysis at the ballistic session will then be brought back and at that stage, if a new batch of firearms is available, it will then be handed over to us with their assistance. And it happened like that, Your Worship. They fully cooperated. The 12 firearms was then handed in at Port Elizabeth, Kabeja Forensic Science Laboratory. Ballistic Section. And Colonel Nkudleka received acknowledge of it. A request for ballistic analysis was then requested. To the Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory Ballistic Section. to conduct ballistic analysis, IBIS testing,
Sorry, ballistic analysis and?
IBIS testing, determine if the rifles can be classified as firearms in terms of the Firearm Control Act. And if it can be linked to any crime or alleged crime. Your Worship, the firearms was then analyzed at the Forensic Science Laboratory, ballistic section. The 12 firearms that was brought. And then on completion of that, I was personally also involved in collecting the 12 firearms as per arrangements with Advocate Collins. The firearms was then taken back to Brighton Beach Police Station, SCP-13 Clark. Colonel Creer, it was handed over to him. In order to hand over to the lawful owner at the time, Mr. Snyman collected it. Your Worship, the arrangement was then, as I indicated, that the Advocate Collins and Mr. Snyman cooperated, and a new set of firearms, 14 of them, was received already sealed in evidence bags from Colonel Creer at Brighton Beach Police Station, the SCP-13 Clark. The 14 firearms, I was personally also involved with the transportation of it to Eastern Cape Forensic Science Laboratory, ballistic section. The same request as the first 12 that was handed in, Your Worship, was also requested for analysis, ballistic analysis. Your Worship, with the analysis of the second batch of firearms, I was not involved in the transportation back to Durban, Brighton Beach. I received a report that 5 rifles was retained. By the ballistic section. Nine was then returned to Brighton Beach Police, Colonel Creer, the SCP-13 clerk. And as per range, as I indicated to court, that additional 14 firearms was then received again rifles. Which was then transported again to the Forensic Science Laboratory in the Eastern Cape, ballistic section, for analysis. Your Worship, after the completion of that firearms with the last batch, 1 firearm was retained. And then the rest of the firearms was then returned to Brighton Beach Police for the handing over to the lawful owner.
When you said all the firearms were returned, Colonel, you mean including the previous 5 that was
Were retained. That's
but
correct, Your Worship.
only the 1 was
Was
kept.
retained.
You know which one was kept?
Your Worship. In terms of the report, it's a firearm, a rifle with a serial number SPA 249/14. Your Worship, the report I received from the ballistic section indicated that the mentioned rifle was linked with the cartridge casing that was found at Sisatukasha Stadium, as indicated. Your Worship, I can also add that the cartridge casing that was found and handed in the SCP-30 exhibit store was analyzed by Warrant Officer Becker of the Criminal Record Crime Scene Investigation Unit, also based in Port Elizabeth. the request for that analysis was if they could trace any touch DNA on the cartridge casing. Conduct fingerprint examination. And Your Worship, with this report I received, there was fingerprints that was found on the cartridge casing. But it could not be linked to anyone on our database. And the touch DNA analysis was also negative, meaning nobody could be linked. Your Worship, the investigation continued. It also, information was also received that Gear House was contracted by EFF to erect
Looking for a word, stage.
a stage, lighting, music, and CCTV footage. A section 205 in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act was applied for at Mdansani Chief Magistrate's Office. Requesting Gear House to make the CCTV footage available for investigation purposes. Your Worship, the application was granted. And Gear House assisted with handing over the relevant footage. Brigadier Governor, now General Governor, was tasked to assist in that regard. The footage was then downloaded, and still photos or photo album was also provided. I received it from Brigadier Governor. And then simultaneously I also requested Warrant Officer Steenkamp also for if she could identify the firearm and the video clipping and facial comparisons. Your Worship, in a report she indicated that she could not identify as per request, or she could not conduct any facial comparisons. Based on her methodologies. Your Worship, I also, during the course of the investigation, requested CIRA, that is the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority in the Eastern Cape, the regional manager, Mr. Stander, to establish if Mr. Snyman is registered as a security official with the authority. Your Worship, they confirmed that Mr. Snyman was registered and the relevant training and status that he's currently having. Your Worship, I also requested from the designated firearm and liquor officer at our station in Dansani. Sergeant Kangaliza is now warrant officer. To look at the firearm enhancement system, that is a system that the police are using for trained officials to have access to see if a person is competent in a certain caliber of firearm. Your Worship, it was established that Mr. Snyman do possess competencies in a handgun, a rifle, and a shotgun. Your Worship, also it was established that Mr. Malema do have a competency in a handgun, during the investigation. I also requested that Colonel Janssen look at the competency of Mr. Malema, and I think evidence was given in relation to that competency. Your Worship, coming to the video footage, the viral footage that was downloaded from my handset, official handset. I can inform the court that we did not find the source of the viral footage. During the investigation, nor the media house that forwarded the viral footage onto the social platforms. Your Worship, the viral footage was viewed. And I could clearly see, during the viewing of the footage, I can clearly see that Mr. Malema in the footage. He's firing a firearm. Your Worship, I'm not a ballistic expert, but on the viral clipping you can clearly see muzzle flash. Out of my experience during our shooting practices, Your Worship, when we do fire live rounds, there will be muzzle flash. Your Worship, also on the viral clipping, after the shots are fired, Mr. Malema then turns as if he is approaching Mr. Snyman. And then there's an exchange of which you cannot see what they're exchanging. Your Worship, the gear house footings, it's much clearer. It does have different angles. One can see to the side of the stage. Mr. Malema is firing shots from a firearm. And then turn back again. Hands it over. And in a short clip I could see that in the second clipping that there's also shots fired. The muzzle flash, you cannot see clearly with the chaos footage. I cannot see clearly. Worship, also with the gearhouse footage, if one looks at where the shots are being fired, on the side of the stage, during the reconstruction, that is more or less the same area where the cartridge casing was found, as pointed out by that witness.
If you say more or less, do you refer to the direction or the spot?
The direction, Your Worship. Where the shots was fired off.
Sorry?
Where the shots was fired off. Your Worship, the receiving of the gearhouse footage was also just a confirmation of the incident of the EFF celebrations on that particular day, in line with the viral footage that was circulating. Your Worship, after the investigation was conducted, all the reports statements was compiled in the case docket. And referred to the NPA for perusal, the perusing advocate at the time. Your Worship, during the investigation also, a case docket was received from Littleton, which was registered on behalf of Mr. Comfort, who is from the AfriForum. Also, a case docket was received from Hillbrow, my apologies if I don't say it right, Your Worship. Blackfish, Landfish, am I saying it right? Blackfish, Landfish, they also registered on behalf of Blackfish, Landfish, they also registered a case docket relating to the same viral footage that was trending on social media. Worship, all these cases of Littleton and Hillbrow conform to the main investigation case docket that was opened at Mdansani. after the perusal by the advocate of the NPA, additional investigation was required. Additional statements was received from witnesses that was identified by the perusing advocate, and additional reports was received. With statements was then requested from Mr. Malema regarding the incidents reflected. Your Worship, before that statement was provided, Mr. Malema was informed by Brigadier Governor of his constitutional rights. His obligation not to submit a statement if you so wish. In the presence of his advocate or this Mr. Malema then indicated that through his statement that he denied the allegation against him, and he will submit his version in court. Brigadier Governor also assisted with consultation with Mr. Snyman, where it was also requested from him to give an account of the allegation. Also denied the allegation against him and opted to explain his version at court. Your Worship, the docket was then returned to the perusing advocate. With all the required further investigation and additional statements that was received from the respective witnesses. And subsequent summonses was issued, which was then served on accused number 1 and accused number 2. That's it. Thank you, Your Worship. That's it.
These summonses you referred them for them to appear in court, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship. Summonses in order to appear before court.
Now, Colonel Swart, it would be very unfair for me to request that you mention all the seal bag numbers and so on. You made 22 statements in that regard. My question to you is, while you were handling some of the exhibits, was there any tampering with the video footage while it was in your possession?
Your Worship, that's no. Whilst the exhibits was in my presence, it was not tempered until it was put into the SCP-13. Or during the transportation of the exhibits, there was no tempering, I can confirm.
Now, Colonel Creer testified on Tuesday, or Captain Creer testified on Tuesday that the second bench that was taken by you were SPA 249-42 was taken on the 11th of August 2018 from Brighton Beach Police Station and collected by you. Is that correct? I think no, not 11, the 17th, sorry.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Just in respect of the spent cartridge, you never said who collected what happened to the spent cartridge once you put it into the SCP-13 in Ndansane. What happened to that after you put it in?
Your Worship, Warrant Officer Becker collected the mentioned spent cartridge for analysis, as indicated.
Can we please switch off all our phones?
That cartridge case, while it was in your possession, you didn't tamper with it.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Another issue that has arisen, just explain me the fact that you used your official handset and you handed it in at, I think it's Captain Bueta and Francis. Did you seal such a phone, or what was the process there?
Your Worship, the viral clipping was forwarded to my official handset, which is I used on a daily basis. and then it was handed in at the digital lab where the extraction was done and handed back to me.
Did you see any necessity whether it should be retained at Francis with Francis or with Buddha, Captain Buddha?
Worship, because it was extracted, I'm not familiar with the processes, but after the extraction, definitely there is the data will be then kept.
You have taken a look, have you taken a look at those two video footages, or let me put it, the 3 clips recently again?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Without asking to play it again, it's common cause then it's now accepted which one is the viral footage and which of the 2 clipping, the other remaining 2 clips is the gear house footage.
That's correct, Your Worship.
I just don't want to assume that is the correct putting it as just said to the witness, can you confirm it's not necessary, it's already been confirmed which ones is gear house and which ones is the viral footage.
Advocate Otis,
I have no issue with that, Your Worship.
No issue, Your Worship.
thank you. No issue, I may assume you agree.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Advocate Caesar.
Thank you, Bishop. Bishop, for now I don't have any further questions.
The ball will be in your court, Advocate Otis. We have.
May I request a short adjournment to take an instruction, please?
Yes, I see there is 15 minutes to the tea adjournment, so will we come back and at 11:45 take the tea adjournment?
I would suggest we take the tea adjournment now, Your Worship, as part of this standing down and start at whatever time Your Worship normally starts.
The normal starting time is 11, but I'll ask from the court staff.
Perhaps 11:15, Your Worship. Or 11.
No, it's too low. If you still have to take instructions and also possibly water breaks or whatever breaks, then we can safely say we'll all return at 11 o'clock. It gives you time to consult and your clients and the state to
Thank you, Your Worship.
have a bathroom break or whatever. Okay. Thank you, Colonel. The matter will stand down for now. everyone ready for us to go back on record?
Yes, Your Worship.
Advocate Matthews ready?
I'm ready.
Advocate Caesar, you are also ready for us to proceed. Thank you. Just a minute. Colonel Swartboy, for the record, you are reminded that you are still under oath in this matter. And at this point, then, cross-examination by Advocate Hodes will commence. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. By arrangement between the accused and the legal of the court, the request is that accused number 2 will cross-examine first, then accused number 1, for reasons that we've discussed between us. I'm not abandoning my cross-examination, but I'll go after Advocate Matthews on this witness. Thank you.
The state has any problem with such a request? Thank you. Okay, then just for the record to reflect correctly, then Colonel Swartboy, cross-examination will be done first by Advocate Matthews, who is representing accused number 2, Mr. Snyman. If you're ready, Advocate Matthews, you may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Colonel Swartboy, you referred to a perusing advocate to whom this docket was sent to, wasn't it?
Your Worship, it was Advocate Elna Smith.
That was the previous prosecutor.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, did you have occasion to study the charges which were preferred against accused number 2, Mr. Snyman?
Your Worship, I don't understand. You can just maybe
Did
explain.
you establish what the perusing advocate had decided what to charge him with?
Your Worship, if I can recall, it was supply of a firearm.
You don't have to tell me what it is, we'll get there.
Okay.
But were you aware of what she had decided to charge Mr. Snyman with?
My recollection is the documents was presented.
And you were satisfied with that from what evidence you had?
Your Worship, if I can relate to court, it's not up to me to make a decision as to what charges we brought against an accused.
Well, let's look at count 6, which pertains to accused number 2. And the allegation in this particular count is a contravention of section 120, sub 10, sub A of the Firearms Act. Of course, read with all the other little sections. And it alleges that this charge is of providing a firearm or ammunition to a person not allowed to possess it. You understand?
I understand. Your Worship.
Unless somewhere else, would you agree with me that as this case now stands, and I believe you are the last witness, we do not have a grain of evidence before us that accused number 2 handed a firearm to accused number 1 or any other person for that matter on the evening in question? Correct?
Just a minute, please. I'm also trying to write and keep up. Okay. Proceed.
Your Worship, my role is to investigate the matter, present evidence to the prosecuting, like I said, the advocate that was perusing the docket. And then it's the mandate of that particular prosecutor who's on behalf of the MP to decide whether there's a prima facie case in relation to what the advocate was just mentioning.
Yes, I understand that, Colonel Swartboy, but you can relate this case out of your mind without even looking at a document. It's clear to me, you know, the ins and outs of it, not so?
To the best of my abilities, Your Worship.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to put it to you that it's obvious to anybody who's been listening to this case that there's absolutely no evidence to substantiate the conviction of Section 120 of the Firearms Act. You don't want to comment. What do you want?
Your Worship, it's my submission that, as I indicated, that we present evidence to the perusing advocate.
All right. Now, the other count that is applicable to accused number 2 is an allegation that he failed to take reasonable precautions to avoid danger to personal property. It's alleged here that he, Mr. Snyman, had control of a loaded firearm which created a risk to the safety or property of the general public, sorry. It failed to take reasonable precautions to avoid that danger. Again, I want to ask you, as the investigating officer who knows this case backwards, is there any evidence being presented to this court that Mr. Snyman, by possession of a firearm, created a risk or safety to the general public?
Your Worship, once again, the evidence was presented to the perusing advocate, and then the decision is made in relation to that.
Sorry,
I cannot
Advocate
comment
Matthews.
on it.
Thank you. I don't want to interrupt your cross-examination, so we now know who the perusing advocate was. She is not the advocate prosecuting.
Oh, yes, no, I
So
forgot.
I would also have to say then that the state at this point is Advocate Caesar, who is charging the accused with the charges per the charge sheet.
I'm dealing with the time when the charges, let me just clarify.
All right.
I'm dealing at the time when the charges were formulated and the summons was served on my client. All right, that remained the same until when Advocate Caesar, and quite correctly, Your Worship, on the day in question, I think, was asked to take over the matter.
Yes,
so there's
correct.
no, not, as
So-
you said, laissez faire, he's not in the firing line. Although I think he's been also in the firing line many times.
Yes?
Yes, I'm sure he did.
All right, so as long as we could just tell me when we move to past that stage, please, so
When
that
we
I know
pass
if
it.
I'm in the present or in the past.
No.
Okay.
So when the charges were read here in court to the accused, these were the charges that were read to the, you understand? You agree with that?
Yes, yes, Your Worship.
So whether Elna Smith or the present prosecutor formulated the charges, the state chose to read these two charges to him. You agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Mr. Snyman, let me ask you this. Mr. Malema, on the day in question, is accused number 2. Is it correct that he was under protection from the South African Police's VIP unit?
Your Worship, that is correct.
Okay. Do you know how many police from the VIP unit were assigned to protect him on that day in question?
Your Worship, I know of the 2 Eastern Cape personal protection services.
And, sorry,
No, you proceed.
and the ones that had come from Johannesburg or from Gauteng?
Brigadier Governor informed me that there was personal protections coming from head office. I'm not familiar with the amount of information.
Did you interview these people? The VIP police?
Your Worship, the 2 from the Eastern Cape, yes.
The ones from Gauteng?
No, Your Worship.
If a person commits an offense in the presence of a policeman, is there not a duty on that policeman to act? And if he fails to do so, he faces possible consequences.
Your Worship, if a police official is aware of such offense in his presence, and fail to act, then I will agree.
Is there a reason why you did not interview the police who had accompanied accused number 2 from Gauteng?
Your Worship, I was assisted by Brigadier Governor, and then my recollection, he interviewed him.
This
As indicated also, the 2 from the Eastern Cape I interviewed.
intervention by Brigadier Governor. Were you the investigating officer or was Brigadier Governor the investigating?
Your Worship, as indicated when I started my testimony, I'm the investigating officer. I was assisted by Brigadier in his office.
Why was Brigadier Governor phoning Becky Cele and informing him about the progress in this investigation?
Your Worship, I will not be aware of it.
One answer.
I'm not aware of it.
And when Governor had interactions with my instructing attorney, Mr. Sneyman, and said he's the investigating officer, that was not correct.
Can you, sorry, I was still writing, just
Sorry, Your Worship,
just
when
please repeat.
Brigadier Governor, I believe he's a general now. No. When Brigadier Governor at the time interacted with Mr. Sneyman and my attorney, he instructed them that he was the investigating officer.
Your Worship, I'm not aware of it.
A lot of resources being put into this case.
I didn't get it.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I said there's a lot of resources being put into this case. For a person firing a shot in the air, allegedly firing a shot in the air. I'll continue. Did you feel, in your honest opinion, Colonel Swartboy, that there was a bit of political interference there?
Your Worship, I'm not aware of what, if there was any political interference.
All right. Let's continue then with what happened. The defense in this particular matter asked for further particulars. In other words, I can tell you why. Do you know what further particulars are?
The defense.
Yeah.
I'm not, if you can explain, Your Worship.
We ask as to why a person has been charged and on what basis you're saying he did A, B, and C. You understand?
Yes, Your Worship.
Do you remember that? What I want to know is, did Eleanor Smith consult with you about the defense's request for further information and particulars?
No, Your Worship, it would have been between my recollection between the defense and the NPA.
Then NPA replied to those further particulars that said they've got no witness that accused number 2 handed a firearm to accused number 1. Are you aware of that?
Your Worship, it was not mentioned to me that was the response to.
All right. Now, you were certainly here in court when accused number 2 pleaded to his counts, correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And he handed up a statement to the Worship, setting out the basis of his defense to his charge. Remember that?
Your Worship, that is the procedure with giving the appearance.
Paragraph 5 of his plea, he stated that I deny that I handed a firearm with serial number XP8249 to any other firearm, to Mr. Malema or any other person. Understand?
I understand, Your Worship.
So from the beginning of this case, you have been warned that Mr. Snyman is denying ever handing over a firearm to Mr. Malema, correct?
I understand, Your Worship.
And knowing that, you have had ample opportunity, years in fact, to find any evidence to substantiate this allegation in the charge. Correct?
Your Worship, as I indicated, that the investigation is completed and it's handed over to the perusing advocate. The decision to formulate charges, that is entirely up to the NPA with that mandate.
Mr. Snyman further denied in his plea that he ever possessed a loaded .223 Norinco rifle.
Your Worship, just before the advocate continues, I indicated that the visuals, just audio. Is it still in place? Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah.
You answer me, fellow, why don't you read your plea? Mr. Snyman denied in paragraph 3 of this plea that he ever possessed this firearm and admitted that on the evening in question he was in possession of a shotgun with a fold-up butt. The relevance of that will become now. You heard him say that?
Your Worship, I'm not sure when did he say that?
In his plea.
On his plea. I understand it.
He was known. Again, you have had ample opportunity to investigate that allegation that he made. Correct.
Your Worship, as indicated, the investigation was completed and submitted.
Sure. Well, now I want to ask you this. A security company has got registers, and by law they must indicate exactly at all times to whom a specific firearm has been booked up. You accept that?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Did you investigate the relevant registers of tactical security company to establish to whom or to what type of firearm had been hooked up to Mr. Snyman?
Worship, that's correct. Colonel Janssen, okay, the surname correct. Documents were submitted as to which firearm is allocated to Mr. Snyman.
You're talking about Colonel Janssen who testified.
Testified,
Yeah.
from the DFO office in
Yeah.
Durban.
So you accept his evidence that Mr. Snyman had a shotgun booked up to him on the evening in question?
On the evening.
Yeah. Well, during that day, I mean evening day, but during this incident. You accept that?
Your Worship, if that was the evidence of Colonel, then I understand that one.
Can you deny that he was in possession of a shotgun?
At this stage, no, Your Worship.
Okay. Did you establish who was was supposed to be in possession of the rifle in question here. The SPA. I keep on forgetting that number, sorry.
24914.
Yeah. In order to establish to whom that rifle was hooked up. In other words, who should have been in possession of it on the evening in question?
Your Worship, on the documents received, the close protector of Mr. Malema, it is Mr. Larry Mavundla.
All right. So you take a statement from Larry Mavundla as to where his firearm was, and on your version as to how this firearm got into Mr. Malema's possession.
Your Worship, the person that Assistant Brigadier Governor approached Mr. Mavundla, and he did not want to submit a statement.
Were you present?
I was not present.
Why did not answer like that, please? We don't want to hear hearsay evidence, sorry, Your Worship. Oh, no, talk check.
No, then he is unable.
The question was, did you approach Mr. Larry Mavundla for his statement?
Your question was, did you obtain a statement of Mr. Larry Mavundla where the firearm was and how it came into Mr. Malema's possession?
Yes, Your
So if you can answer just that part, please.
I did not interview Mr. Mavundla.
Thank you.
Did you establish if Mr. Mavundla was present on the evening in question to dance on?
Your Worship, yes, we applied for Section 205 to establish the movement of Mr. Mavundla, and it was confirmed that he was in East London at that particular day.
Really understand something. The disputed firearm, I'll call it that, right? Because the disputed firearm was booked up to Mr. Larry Mavundla, who was in his London on the evening in question. Alright. And you given information that is refusing to make a statement.
Bishop, I did not interview Mr. Mavundla.
Section 205 of the Criminal Procedure Act, you're aware of those proceedings? Whereby a person can be brought before a magistrate to answer questions about certain aspects.
In this instance, Your Worship, we were looking at the cell phone records.
Also, these cell phone records indicate that he flew into East London, travelled around a bit, went to dance on, correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
In his plea, Mr. Snyman told his court that the firearm, the disputed one, was not in Tanzania on the evening in question, but that firearm was in Johannesburg. You heard him say that. Correct? So in other words, you had ample opportunity to call Mr. Mavunda before this court for him to testify as to where the firearm was that had been booked up to him. You didn't do that, correct?
Your Worship, the evidence, like I indicated, was presented, and then it's...
Okay, can we just, you didn't answer the first question and you proceeded to the second question and you did. So, the first question that you can please reply to is, Mr. Snyman told us the firearm in question, that now called as the disputed firearm, was not in East London but in Johannesburg. Do you have a comment on that statement made by the defense?
I understand what was written in there.
And then there's the second part of the question.
Well, we are dealing with this firearm. You received a report from the ballistic expert, the gentleman who testified yesterday. We know what he said. It's a match because he found some marks in the neck of the cartridge case. You understand?
Worship, I'm not a ballistic expert.
I'm telling you. He says it's a match because he found some, at 3 separate places on the neck of the firearm, he finds marks which he says are unique to that particular firearm. In other words, the firearm's mechanism implanted those marks on that cartridge case. You understand?
I understand you.
All right. He also tells us, now let me ask you this. When you received that report from the ballistic expert, was that the only thing in his report? You've seen his report?
Your Worship, the report was handed over yesterday.
All right. You agree with me that nowhere in his report does he say there's something wrong here, because although I found these marks in the neck of the cartridge case, the firing pin, the breech face mark, the extractor, the ejector, and other chamber marks are all negative. Did he tell you that?
No, Your Worship.
All right.
We don't.
So at the time when he submitted the report to you, he did not notify you that there is some abnormality here, because although he's found correct neck marks, the rest of the mechanism of that firearm, which imprinted things onto the cartridge case, does not match. He didn't inform you that.
Sorry, Advocate Matthews, once again, you've stated it in two manners now. You didn't notify him, and at first you stated it's not contained in his statement.
Well,
So which one now? And
but
both. You are
wasn't
saying it's
contained
not in
in
his statement.
and he didn't notify you, correct?
It was not contained in his report,
Yeah,
and
he didn't notify you. Perfect.
Your Worship, the only report I received was that the firearm was linked to the cartridge casing.
All right. You see, because why this is important is the following. To change, as he now claims, is the only explanation for this abnormality. parts of a firearm would be to be defeating the ends of justice. Do you agree with me?
Just please repeat.
Sorry, you want to look at something first?
No, I'm saying I'm listening, but please repeat. You are saying it
To
is.
change the parts of a firearm, all right, so to evade a positive ballistic finding is defeating the ends of justice.
That's correct, Your Worship.
Had you known, you were listening,
Yes, have you known?
that somebody had been defeating the ends of justice, I'm sure you would have done an investigation as to how this came about.
Sorry that I'm smiling. It's just because you said, "Oh, Your Worship, listening." I am indeed listening. Sorry, it's why I'm smiling. I've got your question written down. You may respond, Colonel.
Yes, if I was made aware, Your Worship, I would have, and was instructed to investigate, I would have done so.
Would you have expected him to tell you that? You're Colonel in the police. Would you have expected him to say to you, listen, I found this firearm positive with name marks, but somebody has been fiddling here because all the other marks applicable to this firearm which can be implanted onto the cartridge case are coming on negative.
Your Worship, the report as indicated was submitted, and then if there was any wrongdoing as stipulated by the advocate, it would have been the perusing advocate would have informed me, and then we would have also conducted an investigation.
You were not instructed by any perusing advocate or any other person from the Director of Public Prosecutions to start an investigation into this aspect, correct?
Your Worship, I was not made aware that we should start an investigation into that respect, regarding the changing of the items that the advocate is referring to.
You could have gone back and requested all the firearms again, not so? But even you could have done that, not so? If you were aware there's something going on here, somebody's defeating the ends of justice.
If I was made aware, Your Worship,
Yeah.
and then instructed to do this, I would have done it.
Let's still in another aspect now. The supply of spare parts for a firearm. I know you're not a ballistics expert, but these firearms, whether they AR-14s or Chinese rip-ups, rifle, whatever, are imported, is that correct?
Your Worship.
No, they're not manufactured.
Give me
inside.
on shoot. I really don't know.
You don't know. So if I put to you that one cannot simply go and buy a spare part for a firearm without that being recorded.
Your Worship, when it comes to firearms, I really, like I indicated, I'm not a ballistic expert.
So it would have been very simple for the police in these circumstances if a spare part or a part which was not part of the firearms was ordered extra. It would be a very simple process to establish this from the people who bring these firearms into South Africa. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, I'm not familiar with those type of investigations, but if, I really cannot comment.
Let's leave ballistics one side, because that may still receive lots of attention. Let's move on to the video. Now, you will confirm that these videos that we have seen here before court, none of them indicate who handed what you claim is a firearm to Mr. Malema, correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And the Gear House videos we've heard from the witness were not of sufficient quality to be able to identify anybody's face or age. Correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
So we are left with the video you say was sent to your phone. Correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
You have honestly told us that the source of this video cannot be traced. In other words, the original instrument, if you may call it that, which recorded this video has not been traced.
That's correct, Your Worship.
You don't know who did it, who sent it. In fact, you don't even know when it was taken. Correct?
Your Worship, the source could not be traced. That's correct.
Now, do you have much to do with social media and WhatsApp and videos that are put onto the internet?
Your Worship, I'm not an IT specialist, but I just read these things.
So, in effect, what we are sitting with here, we have no possibility of testing not only the veracity of that video or the accuracy of it as to what it depicts. Correct?
Your Worship, the source was not traced.
When you applied for a search warrant, when you do apply for a search warrant, are you aware that it is of crucial importance that you tell the magistrate you're applying from the absolute truth? Because you want him to infringe the rights of persons. You want him to infringe the rights of people based on the information you give the magistrate. Correct?
Information is supplied, Your Worship, to the magistrate in order to obtain that search warrant to assist with the investigation of a particular offense or alleged offense.
No. In this particular statement that you made to the magistrate, you indicate that, and I'll read the paragraph for you. So the individuals depicted in the video clipping was identified as Mr. Julius Malema firing the alleged shots, and the firearm being handed over to Mr. Adrian Carada's name, who was employed by MT Clement Julie of Tactical Security Service. That's what you told the magistrate, because you wanted a search warrant for the premises of Tactical Security Services. Correct? Do you want to read?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Would you like to read it or you will confirm?
I can confirm.
We've heard people with excuses from assumptions to whatever, about this firearm being handed back to Mr. Snyman. Do you confirm that the video does not show a firearm being handed back to Mr. Snyman?
Your Worship, the video clipping. That's correct.
In fact, if I show you that video now, there are two people in the presence of Mr. Malema after this alleged shots being fired. A tall black person, for want of identification, and Snyman. You agree with me? What do you want to see?
Just for my own sanity now, to which clip are we
You're
referring
talking
to?
about the viral clip.
The viral one. Thank
Yes.
you.
No, the other one doesn't show anything of this. The viral clip we're talking about. Correct? You accept what I'm telling you.
Your Worship, yes, I accept.
Do you know who the tall black person was?
That person could not be identified, Your Worship.
And if I tell you it was Mr. Larry Mkumza,
Your Worship,
what would you say about that? You can't identify, you can't dispute it. Correct?
I cannot identify. I didn't, or it did. It was not identified, Your Worship.
You cannot dispute that.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Why is there an assumption that accused number one handed the firearm back to accused number two when there's somebody in closer proximity to Mr. Malema? Why is there not an assumption that he handed it back to him?
Just for clarity sake, is counsel saying for a fact that that person was indeed Larry Mavuntla? Because it is also important. Or is he just putting it loosely that it might be or not be?
I've got it. If I tell you the person was Larry Mavundla, then I take it that is what you are saying as a statement.
There is nothing loose here.
That is a fact.
That is a fact.
All right. Satisfied, Advocate Caesar?
But I want to know from you, why is there not an assumption that it was handed to that tall black gentleman who was closest to Mr. Malema? And why do you assume it was handed back to Mr. Snammer? Although you haven't made any assumptions, so maybe it's not a right question to ask you.
And what is the question?
So I will do it. But you are aware there's an assumption that the firearm was handed back to Mr. Snammer. Mrs. Govender said so.
The pick. That's correct, Your Worship.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I shouldn't ask you something.
Are you up to date, the witness, with what was happening now? He
I
seems confused, Advocate
take
Matthews.
it
I
from
just want
what
him
Mr.
to understand.
I'll
But
break
if
it
he's
down, everybody.
no, if he's satisfied, please move on, because I don't think he wanted us to answer and it was withdrawn. So,
If he has made no assumptions, it's made.
all right, fair enough.
There's no showing on that.
All right, satisfied, Colonel. You are. Thank you.
You happy with that?
That's correct, Your Worship.
All right. Now, I just want to deal with another few aspects of the evidence. I want to put it to you that Mr. Snyman was not contracted at that time to be the protector of Mr. Malema. He might have been contracted in general sense for the EFF, but at that particular time, Mr. Malema was under the protection of the South African Police VIP unit. Said that.
Your Worship, I'm aware that, as I indicated, that the two Eastern Cape personal protectors was there.
I'm basically finished, but I would like to just take instructions from the client.
Certainly.
Sorry, if you wish to clarify.
Yes.
Thank you. The VIP police who, in fact, did make statements, the ones that it appears you people took the trouble to interview. None of them saw Mr. Malema firing a firearm, is that correct?
I will accept, Your Worship.
You accept that? And just for completeness, Mr. Mavundla flew to East London on a South African Airways flight from Johannesburg. On which you are not allowed to carry a firearm. You understand?
I understand, Your Worship.
Knowing that, did you establish how he got to East London?
How Mr. Mavundla got to Islam.
Yeah. Does his cell phone not show his first movement from the airport?
As indicated by the advocate, he flew. You indicated that he flew to Islam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you wish to just bear with me this. I don't want people being recalled. So I just already covered that. Thank you, Bishop. I missed it.
Thank you, Advocate Matthews.
Sorry, Mr. Snellman's got Anthony's back.
Are you still comfortable? You don't
Yeah.
want a chair?
No, no, it's fine. Bishop.
I've just been asked to put it to you that the VIP Close Protection Unit was in fact on the stage close to Mr. Malema on the evening in question. Can you dispute that?
Your Worship, as indicated by Mr. Matthews, the Advocate Matthews, is that the personal protectors was assigned to protect Mr. Malema. Also,
We have, as is one with the EFF gatherings, a large crowd of people. The president of the EFF on the stage, correct? Protection is essential under those circumstances. Do you agree?
I understand, Your Worship.
Close protection. You accept that?
Your Worship, on the protocols of how they protect, Your Worship, I will not be able to convince the court as to how the protocols apply in circumstances of that nature that the advocate is put.
Thank you, Bishop. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Kudos, well, very good and ready for cross-examination. So let's just leaving me a little workspace here. Thank you.
Thank you. Now commence, Your Worship.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Colonel, I want to apologize up front if there's repetition in my cross-examination, but we have different ways of asking sometimes the same question, so I apologize in advance. You'll confirm that you've told this court that you are the investigating officer in this matter. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship.
You also hold the rank of a colonel and have many years, some 36 years of experience. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Is it normal for a colonel to investigate a matter like this?
Is it normal to investigate?
For a colonel, 36 years experience to investigate a matter like this.
It's very difficult to answer that one, Your Worship. Any alleged offence or offence that was committed, irrespective of a person's rank, if you are assigned to investigate, you will investigate that matter.
How many other matters do you have involving discharge of firearm in public places, Colonel?
Your Worship, I cannot recall now, but there is a lot of cases which I investigated where firearms was used, people were killed.
I want to put to you, sir, that it's highly unusual for a colonel, assisted by a brigadier, who's now a general, to investigate a matter of this nature. Do you have any comment?
Your Worship, as indicated, that any alleged offence or offence that is assigned to you will investigate, irrespective of the person's rank.
Now, being the investigating officer, you were in charge of the docket in this matter, and you know, by way of example, that it comprises of at least 135 statements. Do you agree with me?
Statements was submitted and reports were submitted, Your Worship. It is sampled into the docket, that's correct.
So, Colonel, that's not the question. You know that the A club comprises of up to A135. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, you proceeded to tell this court that upon arrival you sought permission to interview the people that had worked there, being the stadium manager and the employees and staff that were on duty at the time of the EFF's 5th anniversary celebration. Is that correct?
Your Worship, permission was granted that the ground staff that was on duty on the day when we were there, we can interview them. And then 2 witnesses was identified.
You never mentioned of your own accord that there were South African Police Service VIP Protection Services members present. Do you agree with me?
During my evidence?
Yes.
Yes, correct. That's correct, Your Worship.
Why not?
Your Worship, it was not deliberate. It's just because of, I can answer that one. It was not deliberate or intentional not to inform the court of the personal protectors that was not there. It is just a recollection when Mr. Matthews raised it now.
Colonel, I'm going to argue that it was deliberate, and I'm going to explain to you why. You had, as you've recorded, this docket under your control. You're aware of each and every one of these VIP, these SAPS VIP protected members who were present and deposed to statements. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, as I indicated, I was aware of the 2 personal protectors from the Eastern Cape that we interviewed.
And I'm going to show you aware of more than 2 that I did. Would you also confirm, sir, that A5 in the docket is a statement by the stadium manager, Mzolisi Glover, who told you that he saw nothing in relating to shooting? Is that correct?
If it's reflected in that statement, that's correct, Your Worship.
If you doubt it, I can show it to you, sir.
No, it's,
Thank you. Now, progressing through the docket, would you confirm that you've made, last count was 22 statements relating to this matter?
I can confirm, Your Worship.
And I want to put to you that there are several persons that you interviewed yourself who told you they hadn't seen any shooting, they're unaware of any danger or any risk of danger on the night in question. Do you agree with me?
That is correct, Your Worship.
You never mentioned that either in your evidence in chief. Do you agree?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Once again, you're going to tell the court it was unintentional. Do you agree?
I understand, Your Worship.
Now, going through the docket, you also had the affidavit of a specialist bomb technician, explosive section, a bomb technician, who also covered the field and found nothing there. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
A13. So you conducted a sweep of the whole field with bomb technicians, with metal detectors, and nothing was found. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Why did you not mention this, Colonel?
Your Worship, the investigation is vast, as indicated by Mr. Aldis, that it's again, I emphasize the court that it's not deliberate or intentional.
I'm going to take you through in the chronology of the docket, Colonel, that you also interviewed a Lunga Mbele who explained how they did a complete search of the sail or tent, as referred to in the statement, And no damage whatsoever was found in the sabre tent. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Sorry, I'm going to apologize in advance for asking this question. Why did you not mention it in your evidence in chief, sir?
Yes, repeated, Your Worship. It was not intentional.
Once again, unintentional omission. Agreed.
Unintentional.
But you agree with me that there was a statement by a Captain Lunga Harvey Mbele who went there and checked the tent or sail and found no damage whatsoever, which would be indicative of no firearm shooting a bullet through the sail or the tent that was on site at the time. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Yet, in your evidence in chief, you made no mention whatsoever of this. You agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
You tell this court that was an unintentional omission. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
You then, I'm going through, as I said, the sequence, fairly conceded that there was a fingerprint analysis, but that was negative. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
It wasn't really negative, sir. It did find fingerprints. Do you agree with me?
The fingerprints was found, as I indicated, Your Worship, but nobody could be linked to it.
So the official finding is that there were identifiable fingerprints, but they didn't tie back to these two accused. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
But there were clear identifiable fingerprints that could have been compared to the cleaner who found the round, to the people that held and handled the round. Did you do that, Colonel?
Just
I'll rephrase it. Did you ask the fingerprint expert to see whether it's the fingerprint of the cleaner or the persons that handled that spent cartridge?
Your Worship, exclusions was made, and then, like I explained it, summarized it, nobody could be linked to the fingerprints that was found on the cartridge.
Now I'm going to turn, Colonel, to that which Mr. Matthews has touched on, but I'm going to show you it's far more detailed than what you would like this court to accept. First, there was the various statements of Mr. Quatta, who said that he never saw any shooting or firing of firearms. Do you agree with that?
I agree, Your Worship.
That was the gearhouse employee, is that correct? The gearhouse employee, Mr. Quatta.
That's
He
correct.
made, I think, 4 or 5 statements, is that correct?
Your Worship, I'll accept what.
Yeah. But then we turn to the VIP protection services personnel that you have their statements in the docket. Is that correct? The first one, if you want to check, is A65, a Sergeant Andile Kuma, QUMA, one of the members from the SAPS Protection Security Services East London. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And he told you in no uncertain terms that he was unaware of any shooting. Do you agree?
That's correct, Your Worship.
He was even asked, and I'll show you this, what firearm he had, and he confirmed that he had a Glock 9mm. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, he also explained that he had 30 rounds and he returned with 30 rounds. Do you agree with that?
It's reflected in the statement, Your Worship. That's correct.
And that the people from the National Protection Services were armed with R5 rifles. That's correct.
Correct, Your Worship.
So the obvious inference that you're trying to draw is that these people were armed, they knew what firearms were, but they claimed to have not seen any shooting. Is that correct?
As indicated, Your Worship, they indicated that they didn't see any shooting.
A66 in the docket is the second member of the SAPS Eastern Cape Protection Security Services, a Sergeant Ngisa Morrison Nzelani, Nzelani, who gave you a very similar statement that he had not seen any shooting. He was he was at the event in charge of accused number 1 security. That he had a 9mm Glock with 30 rounds, and that other persons were there from the Gauteng division, and he was required to identify them and did so. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And he said to you in uncertain terms that the 3 colleagues from the National Protection Security Services had come through and were assigned to escort and protect accused number 1. Do you agree with that?
That he did what?
That he had met the 3 members who had been assigned to escort accused number 1 and protect him. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
So in all, you were aware of 5 official members of the South African Police Service who were there to protect and escort accused number 1 and were at the event and on the stage at the material time. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
I'm repeating myself, and I admit it. This was not mentioned by you in chief. It was what you call an unintentional omission. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
You then received the statements from the other police officers from the Gauteng. Is that correct?
I did receive that, yes, Your Worship.
And the first one was a P-H-E-E-H-A, Edwin Khare. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with the names, but there were 3, Your Worship.
A67. The second was the person that I think you may have made reference to, Thomas Chowkey from the VIP Protection Services. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
A68. And the third was Laheni Colin Nengovela. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
So we have 5 official members of the South African Police Service who were there present and never expressed any fear or any danger on account of any firearms being shot in public places. Is that correct?
They did not see anything. That's correct, Your Worship.
And as you said, no, they did not see anything, but nobody reported any offense or arrested anybody for any conduct on that night. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
The oath on from a Sergeant Belana Kondleke. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Please tell the court what that person did.
Can you just repeat the
Kondleke.
surname?
First name is Belona, B-E-L-L-O-N-A. The surname is Kondleke, K-O-N-D-L-E-K-A.
Your Worship, Sergeant Kondleke was assigned, if I'm correct, to the stadium, assisting Colonel Nkwali at the night, during the celebrations in the VOC room.
And also, the VOC, you mean the Venue Operations Center?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And once again, also never reported any incidents of significance. Do you agree with me?
Nothing was reported to the
Another unintentional omission, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Some legal statements, I apologize, Your Worship. Even the last statement in the docket, A135, to identify it for you, sir. It's the statement of Mandisa, and I'm going to spell this name to N-G-Q-E-N-G-Q-A, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
What role did she play?
Your Worship, I cannot, if you can read it.
She was in charge of the fireworks display, do you remember that?
The bomb exploit, bomb exploit. It's correct, Your Worship.
She said that there's nothing of significance. The fireworks display ran smoothly, there was no issue relating to it, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
It began at 1843 and ended at 1905, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And on our version of the docket, that's the last statement in the A clip, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
So we now know that there was a fireworks display, you were aware of it, it went off smoothly, there were no issues whatsoever, but once again, an unintentional omission, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, had any of these police officers become aware of any untoward conduct, you have agreed already they had a duty to report such conduct, do you agree with me?
If they became aware of it, that's correct, Your Worship.
Similarly, if they were in close proximity to a man who was firing a firearm that constituted a danger to the public, they had a duty to take action, do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Not one of them did, do you agree with that?
They were not made aware of anything? Yes, that's correct, Your Worship.
No, I never asked you whether they were made aware or not. I said not one of them made any such reports to you.
Your Worship, the last version of Mr. Waters, I couldn't hear.
No, so I'll repeat it for you, sir. Not one of them made any report of illegal conduct to you, do you agree?
That's correct in the statements.
Even when you approached them and said, listen, there's been a shooting, there's a firearm that was shot in the public, are you aware of it? They all said, I never saw anything, or I was unaware of it. You agree with that?
That's correct, Your Worship.
From which one can infer that nobody ever felt at risk, do you agree with me?
I couldn't hear that.
From which one can infer that not one of them was at risk, do you agree with me?
During the interviews, Your Worship, none of them indicated as stated.
And the purpose of your interviews with these VIP members and other police members was to ascertain whether they had any knowledge of the incident, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Yet when you commenced testifying here, you said there were only 2 witnesses who identified that indicated that they had knowledge of this incident, is that correct?
There were 2 witnesses.
Yes. He said the purpose of the interviews was to establish whether they knew about the incident and gather information of the incident. 2 witnesses were identified.
That is now referring to the ground personnel at the
Yes.
stadium. Okay. For clarity for the
Thank you.
Your Worship, when we arrived at the stadium, 2 witnesses were identified that was cleaning the stadium on that Monday, and then one of them recovered the cartridge casing.
Now you referred to a reconstruction of the site or the scene, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Who reconstructed the scene?
The witness that picked up the cartridge casing
Did what?
and pointed out where she picked up that cartridge casing.
Is that what you call a reconstruction?
Your Worship, that scene then is reconstructed.
When you refer to a reconstruction of the scene, it created the impression, at least in my mind, that they then rebuilt the stadium to see how everything had unfolded. Is that not the case, Colonel?
No, Your Worship.
So there's no reconstruction. She was asked to point out, to identify where she had found the spent cartridge. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
I want to put to you that can never be referred to as a reconstruction. So do you have any comments?
Your Worship, that's my understanding of what we did.
So there's never been a reconstruction of the stage with the sail on top to try to reconstruct how the scene was at the time of the alleged commission of the offence. Do you agree with me, Colonel?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Why not, Colonel?
Your Worship, the most important was the witnesses that we identified there that indicated as to where they found that cartridge casing.
Colonel.
And a photo was taken then of the different angles of the stadium.
I might be out of time, but I want to put you, Colonel, that's a pointing out, not a reconstruction. Do you agree with me?
Pointing out and thereafter reconstruction.
But nothing was reconstructed. You can give it any fancy terminology you want. You never reconstructed it. He said to her, where did you find it? She pointed to a piece in the felt where she found it, and that was it. That's not a reconstruction.
Your Worship, this is my understanding.
And it becomes significant, Colonel, because of the conclusion that you reach later on that I'm still going to get to. You then became aware of a video that had gone viral. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever ascertain who was the source of this video?
Your Worship, as indicated, the source was not identified.
So as you stand here, some 5 years later, you do not know who was the video taker of that video, the photographer. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Have you ever attempted to investigate that, Colonel?
Your Worship, as I indicated, the source was not found.
That's not the question, sir. Have you ever attempted to investigate who was the photographer of the video?
In order to get the photographer, Your Worship, you will need to. That's why I'm saying the source was not found. So in other words, the source will be the photographer of that video clipping that went viral.
I'm going to give you a third chance, Colonel. Have you ever attempted to identify the photographer of that video?
Your Worship, the source could not be found. The photographer, in other words.
I want to put you, Colonel, it's clear from the docket you never even bothered to try to look for the source of the video. Do you have any comments?
Your Worship, the source could not be identified through several inquiries that we conducted.
Colonel, there are 23 statements by you, 22 or 23 statements by you in the docket, not one refers to any attempts to find the source of the video. Do you agree with me?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Whereas when it came to sweeping the field and finding nothing, you reported that. When it came to VIP protection officers that were there but saw nothing, you recorded that. When it comes to ascertaining the source of the video, there's no statement anywhere dealing with any attempt to do so. Do you agree with me?
There's no statement to that effect, Your Worship.
From which I want to put you, I infer that there was no attempt made to ascertain who had made that video. Do you have any comments?
Your Worship, through all that investigation and inquiries conducted, although there's no statement reflecting that, nobody came forward, and through like I said, indicated through the investigation, nobody came forward, and through inquiries, we could not establish the source of that particular viral clipping.
Colonel, you've told us AfriForum opened the docket. You told us another organization, you weren't certain of the name, opened the docket. Did you ask any of these people about the source of this video footage?
Your Worship, that complainants, they never came forward. Even with the feedback, they never came forward in relation to the source of that particular clipping.
You're not answering the question. I'll let you leave it. It will reflect. It's been asked. What purpose did it then serve to take your phone and download a disk that was then sealed in a tamper-proof bag when you never knew where the chain actually began? Colonel, we can wait all day.
I'm waiting for the magistrate to give me a signal to answer, Your Worship.
It's the first. But still wait.
It's how we've been operating. Maybe you didn't notice.
Your Worship, it formed part of the evidence when we started the investigation.
I want to put to you, Colonel, just to create some veneer of respectability to a purported chain of custody that never really existed. Do you have any comment?
Your Worship, it formed part of the investigation.
So you have a video that you, on my version, never ever bothered to, on your version, never ascertained the source of, and now you start sealing it in tamper-proof bags. Is that correct?
Your Worship, as indicated, it formed part of the investigation.
And we've established through the experts that even when you received it, you did not compare the hashtag values of it to when it was later utilized by the Forensic Sciences Laboratory. Do you agree with that?
Your Worship, I cannot comment on that expert evidence.
You know, we heard about a hard drive of this video. Do you have any knowledge of it?
If the advocate can elaborate on that.
The court heard yesterday of a hard drive that had been created of this video. Do you have any knowledge of that hard drive?
Created by who, Your Worship?
I'm not yet to answer your question, sir. The court heard of a hard drive of the video that was referred to in this court. Do you have any knowledge of that hard drive?
I'm not aware of that, Your Worship.
Now, when you took your official, as you referred to it, cellular phone, and as you said, your official handset, and handed it in for the downloading of the video recording, did you tell the people, this is my official handset?
That is correct, Your Worship.
So you told them, it's your official handset. And then did you say to them, please download all the information on this phone, or did you direct them to one particular portion of the information on the phone, Colonel?
They were directed to the video clippings, the viral clippings, Your Worship.
So you said, on your version, here's my phone, please download only this video clip, these video clippings, and then return it to me. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And from there, the chain begins. Prior to that, you agree there's no chain of custody. Do you agree, Colonel?
It was handed in, it was extracted, and it was handed back to me.
I'm going to ask you the question again, Colonel. From there, the chain begins. Do you agree that prior to your doing so, there was no chain of custody?
From me to them, that's correct, Your Worship.
And in your evidence before this court, you said that it depicts accused 1 firing shots and accused 2 receiving a firearm from accused 1, and then you quickly qualified that by saying it appeared to be a firearm. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, you have referred to the facial recognition that was done at your request. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
You also requested firearm recognition. Do you agree?
That's correct, Your Worship.
I'm going to give you your answer. You didn't mention it because it was an unintentional omission. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Please explain to this court why you never mentioned the request for firearm recognition, Colonel.
Your Worship, I did.
I'm not sure my notes indicates that he did mention for firearm and facial. It was the words that he used.
Indeed,
Yes.
so Advocate Otis.
I'll rephrase. Thank you. No, I apologize. Unequivocally.
Don't have to apologize.
No, if I got it wrong, I got it wrong. I want to put you, Colonel, that you never said that the firearm was not recognized as a result of the tests. Do you have any comments?
Okay.
Your Worship, I mentioned that she could not, in her report, identified.
I think if I quote him correctly, Advocate Otis, and I stand corrected, his evidence was due to the muzzle flash she could not identify the persons, but I will look for the evidence if that will assist you.
It says so, Your Worship, but it's confirmed.
You want me to have a look?
I
Or?
missed it, I accept it.
No, you can consult with the others who took notes and I can assist you as well. Don't want you to accept something you're not
Your Worship,
comfortable
I
with.
have, my note reads as follows.
Yes.
Simultaneously, as part of the investigation, I also requested Warrant Officer Steenkamp to get sample images of accused 1 and accused 2 and requested her to compile a facial comparison to identify accused 1 and accused 2 from the photo album and CD. A report was submitted to me by Warrant Officer Steenkamp with both accused 1 and accused 2. She could identify through her methodologies by means of facial comparisons. The CD from Captain Botha was also handed in as an exhibit. I don't have anything about the firearm.
Okay, thereafter, it comes later. I'll just look for it and read to you if I
have
find
lots of muzzle flash towards the end.
He stopped
He
the-
Yes.
was referring to the, say he made a second request with the DR footage where he specifically asked for that. and he
Yes.
was unable to do
I'm
so.
getting to that, then I will read it into the record, then you may see if you have, it just comes a bit further down. Nearly there, just a minute. Okay, here we go, Advocate Otis. It goes way after that part of his evidence. He testified the footage was downloaded and still photos were also. It's difficult to see. I don't know how you manage it. The photos were also provided. I received it from Brigadier Covender. I also requested Warrant Officer Steenkamp to see if she could identify the persons on the footage and facial comparison. and she indicated in her report she could not conduct any comparison or identity based on the mythologies.
Can I read you my notes in that regard?
Yes, certainly.
The footage was then downloaded. A still photo album was also provided. I received it from Brigadier Governor. Simultaneously, I also requested warrant officer Steenkamp to identify the firearm on the video clipping and facial comparison. In the report, she indicated that she could not conduct any facial comparisons based on her methodologies.
Yes.
But I can leave it for argument, Your Worship. It's hard to record every single word.
It is hard to?
I will leave it at that. I won't take it further. Your Worship.
No, I'll continue reading. It's just extremely difficult to do so. I think you also have a problem seeing there.
Yes, Your Worship, please.
I'm not saying you're not seeing what I want you to see, merely that it's difficult, strenuous on the eyes.
I'm prepared to leave it, Your Worship, in the interest of making progress.
Okay, you may continue in the meantime.
What I want to put to you, Colonel, is that you, of your own accord, said what appeared to be a firearm because you are not certain that it is actually a firearm. Do you agree with me?
Worship, I viewing the clippings, I will not be in a position to say that it's a firearm, a real firearm.
Yet, in your statement, as been pointed out to you, and when you applied for the warrant of search and seizure, it's your A27 if you want in your docket, you never referred to it as what appeared to be a firearm. Do you agree with me?
Shots, Your Worship, if you can repeat that one.
Yes. When you made your statement in A27 to apply for the warrant of search and seizure, you never referred to it as what appeared to be a firearm.
That's correct, Your Worship.
You referred to it as a firearm, and out of fairness to you, you said handing the alleged firearm back to my director.
That's correct.
Now, through all of your investigations, be it by means of requesting people to identify, to enhance, and to look at the photos and the video, you cannot, as a fact, say that that is a firearm. Do you agree with me?
On the video clippings, that's correct, Your Worship.
What you used to identify it, and you did express your own reservations out of fairness to you, what you did use, you said you're not a ballistics expert, but because there's muzzle flash, you were of the view that it was a firearm. Is that correct?
Shots were fired, and because of the muzzle flash, Your Worship, a firearm was being used.
I want to put to you, sir, that the stage firearms, and they're referred to as blank firearms, also emit muzzle flash. Do you have any comment?
Your Worship, I'm not aware, as indicated, about the type of firearms or a ballistic expert.
Now, what I want to ask you, sir, is you said that from where the shots were fired on the side of the stage, during the reconstruction, it was at more or less the same area where the cartridge was found. Do you remember that?
The direction more or less.
Yeah, I want to put you so that that was contradicted by the witness who testified to finding the cartridge. Do you have any comments?
Your Worship, I've got no comment on what the witness was testifying.
In fact, I want to put you so that the spent cartridge that's relied upon by the state is found far out of range from where the alleged shooting is said to have taken place. Do you have any comment?
No comment, Your Worship.
Now, in that instance, when you spoke of a reconstruction, once again, just for clarity, because we have different definitions of the word reconstruction, you're referring to where the witness pointed out to you that she had found the cartridge. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, that was photographed, and you're aware of that.
That's correct, Your Worship.
In fact, I believe you were in court even at the time it was handed up as an exhibit. Is that correct?
I cannot recall it or the recollection.
Well, were you here on the first days of trial when the witness who found the cartridge testified? I can give you her name and her details if you like. Really?
Your Worship, I'm aware of the witnesses and what she pointed, where she pointed out the photos was taken. That is correct, Your Worship.
So you were in court when she testified, is that correct?
Your Worship, I cannot recall if I was inside or outside. But the witness did testify, Your Worship. I can confirm that.
Well, I want to hand you what we have as Exhibit A.
Okay.
I know there might be differences, Your Worship might have it, because there are several photos and there's some deliberation between my colleagues and I, but we have this as Exhibit A. It's the photograph of the stadium. On your terminology, reconstruction, where was that round or the spent cartridge found?
Your Worship, if I can...
Referring to this one, Advocate Otis?
No, that's why we have different ones, Worship. That's the difficulty I have. If I can hand your Worship mine, we'll see. We see
You can just... Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, the only difference is yours is a bit forward and mine depicts an empty stadium, a full stadium, and yours an empty stadium.
Yes. No, that's why I say that. They're different, Worship.
Okay.
My learned colleagues have the same as I have.
All right, but I've taken note of what you've shown, so I'm aware you may keep your copy and proceed.
Brilliant.
Your Worship, if I can see the photo album also, I can point out because I'm not familiar with this photo here. I see the what do you call this thing? The flashlight, the lamp pole,
Yes.
the floodlights. It was in that vicinity of the floodlight, if I'm correct.
You had no difficulty, Colonel, telling the court earlier that during the reconstruction, which you've established wasn't a reconstruction, at more or less the same area where the cartridge was found, as pointed out by the witness. Now I want to know where you're referring to, Colonel.
Your Worship, on the side of the stage,
Which side, the left or the right facing the side?
on the left hand side, if I face it this way.
The left-hand side facing the stage, yes. Now, Colonel,
That's the direction.
I'm going to hand to you Exhibit A3, which is the one that you had requested, of the witness and photographed. In photograph 8, you'll see what she's pointing to. You'll see, and I'm going to help you, that photograph 8 is described as being the witness pointing out where she found the spent cartridge. So if you look at the key.
It's more or less in front of the floodlights, Your Worship.
If you're facing the stage, it's on the left-hand side. If you're on the stage, it's on the right-hand side. Is that correct?
Yes, left, where I'm facing. That's correct, Your Worship.
You've been to the scene, you've seen it. Can you give us an indication of the distance that the witness is in photo 8 to the stage, to where the stage was?
I will not be in a position to give you a distance, Your Worship, but a direction more or less.
Colonel, then you weren't qualified to say more or less in the same area.
The word he uses direction, not area.
No, you used the word area. I disagree with you. I've got an answer.
I specifically clarify that with the witness to ask, does it mean area or direction? And he said direction.
In his evidence in chief, I'm not sure what word he used now. Are you referring to now, Advocate Audius?
Your Worship, my learned friend did clarify it, is correct.
Yes.
But the witness of his own accord said more or less the same area
As
where
the
the
flood.
cartridge was found. As
Not
pointed
the
out by
same
the witness.
area as the floodlights?
Yes, Your. He didn't mention floodlights, Your Worship.
He mentioned
now
the
saying
floodlights now,
Yes,
during this
yes.
2 questions ago. Okay, nonetheless, sorry, the last one I got now from it, he cannot give us an estimate
Of the distance.
of the distance, and you then stated then he cannot qualify to give
The area.
the area.
Thank you, Your Worship.
So that is where we stopped.
That's correct, Your
Right.
Worship.
And I want to put to you further, Colonel, because it's pertinent to this matter, that if you had reconstructed the scene, having used the term reconstruction more than once, you would have been able to do a test to see where and in what direction the cartridge would have been ejected from a firearm. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, when it comes to ejections and those things, again, it falls within the ambit of a ballistic expert. But correctly so, if that was done, you could have given an estimate.
Well, then let me rephrase the question for you, Colonel. Neither you nor any ballistic expert reconstructed this scene.
That's correct, Your Worship.
So nobody can come to court and speak of areas and directions without being very vague, because no actual reconstruction was done. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
And there was no reconstruction in the true sense of the term reconstruction, where the stage was rebuilt and tests were conducted to see how far away from the stage a ejected spent cartridge would fall. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Now, if one looks at the video as well, the first point that comes to mind is that it was dark, it was night time. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
The second thing that comes to mind is that there are more than one shots fired by this apparatus. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Yet, despite diligent searches using metal detectors and bomb experts, all that one can refer to is some type of a spent cartridge that was found at a distance from the stage. Do you agree with me?
The cartridge was found at that particular spot, Your Worship. That's correct?
You aren't in a position, as you've told the court now, to even give an indication of the distance where the witness is in photo 8 to the stage. Do you agree with me?
That's correct, Your Worship.
that if one has regard on a process of logic to where the lamppost is with the floodlights, it's a considerable distance. It's tens, if not 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s of meters. Do you agree with me?
Bishop, I will not dispute the distance. As indicated, there was no measurements taken.
Now, the bigger issue, sir, is if you look at what I have as Exhibit A, or even the copy that Her Worship has, there are structures that are in the way between the stage and the lamp post for the floodlight that prohibit, in fact make it impossible for the cartridge to have got there from being fired on the stage. Do you agree with me? I'll show you the photo so you'll see what I mean.
Yes, I see there is structures there, Your Worship.
Now, you've had every opportunity and you've had years to investigate this matter. In order for a cartridge to get to where the witness is standing in photo 8, it would have to have penetrated these structures and damaged them. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, I cannot comment on that.
It's logical, Colonel, it's logical. There's structures covering the lawn. The spent cartridge was found on the lawn. It would have to have penetrated or got through these structures to get there. Do you agree with me?
Your Worship, I cannot comment on that. I was not at the stadium at the time when that happened.
Well then, Colonel, with respect, you're not qualified to have told this court it was in the area or direction where the witness had said she'd found it. Because you have no idea where it was on your own version now.
Your Worship, that is where the witness pointed out she found the cartridge casing. And then Mr. Horace is identifying structures that is in place there.
The witness identifies it on photograph 8. Do you agree with me? That's common cause.
That's correct, Your Worship.
If you look at photo A, there were structures that were in the way and covering that area. It's illogical. Do you see that?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Then it's impossible. It's simply impossible for a cartridge to have been fired there with these structures at the time. Do you agree with me, Colonel?
Your Worship, I cannot comment on that.
Are we going to call this another innocent omission or unintended omission? Because it's logical, sir.
If you indicate it's logical, Your Worship, it's my version that I testify to that effect.
I want to put to you, Colonel, that you, having investigated this for 5 years before you came to testify and having analysed everything, cannot prove that the actual firearm was utilised on your own version. Do you agree?
Your Worship, once again, the evidence was presented. The video clips, I cannot in the video clips indicate that that is a real firearm or not.
Your Worship, I see it's almost 1 o'clock. Would this be an opportune time to take the lunch break? I can take instructions and we can eat soon after lunch.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. What time will we then agree to convene? I'm available.
2 p.m.
Please. Miss Makina? Miss Makina? Sihle. It's about 2 o'clock. Alright, let me just leave the charge sheet open so I can stuff. Oh. court will adjourn until 2 o'clock.